meeting. I had just one minor on page 2, number 2, C2, where it says little school principal results. We don't need the word "the," and it says, well, he might want to be referred to as the Dr. Manville, but we don't. The Dr. Manville. I think we just take the word "the" or "the" out of there. Anybody else have anything else?
No, I didn't see anything else, and with that change, I would like to move to.
I'm sorry.
I did.
Oh, God, I'm so tired, this is.
You're looking for
Move
it.
to approve?
Move to
Oh,
approve, thank you.
on
I'll
that-
second.
On the second page,
Of which minutes?
June
June
28th,
28th.
Thank you.
it says, under little school principal results, it says
Oh.
the Dr. Manville.
Thank
He may only be the only Dr. Manville, but,
Nice.
so other, so we have a motion by
Move to
Ms.
approve the
Ericetti?
June 28th.
I'll second.
second by Mr. Venezia, to approve as amended.
Aye.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. We have the July 12th.
I reviewed these and didn't see any changes, anyone else?
I found one, yeah, this is awful.
Oh,
I'm
God.
sorry, I have to do this. Under MSBA update on page 1, there should be apostrophe in superintendent's office, T apostrophe S.
Geez, I thought
Very
Steve
good, huh?
Jervy had been off the committee for 2 years. Go ahead.
I had my Strunk and White out Elements of Style book, and I found that mistake there.
Move to approve
I-
the
I-
amended regular meeting, but I'm just skipping you out.
Okay,
This is-
we have a motion by Ms. Arquetti. Do we have a second? Second by Mr.
Second.
Venezia.
Second.
I do want to thank Cindy for, I noticed on the back, we have a list of all the attachments at the meeting, which is now required by our open meeting law. So I thank Cindy for,
Awesome.
Well, yeah,
Getting
but
all
was
those
she
that-
responsible for omitting the apostrophe?
that's
Yeah,
true. So
no.
that kind of
I-
Well, that kind of
I'll
upsets.
compromises my congratulations there, so.
And a question on that for this one. These will now be listed, correct?
What are
Because
those?
The meetings will now be on this list?
List of
Because-
upcoming meetings?
No, of attachments. So I'll list the minutes, these 2 minutes.
Oh, yes,
for
these
this
minutes will be
week.
listed as documents that were at
Yes.
this meeting, yes.
Okay.
So by about, in about a year, I think we'll have about a 45-page set of minutes. Because they'll be listing minutes of minutes of minutes. It'll be
Okay.
very good. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And then we have the July 12th executive session. I found nothing.
Move to approve
Here.
the July 12th executive session minutes?
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Subcommittee update. We had staff, sorry.
Very-
Staffing.
Okay, we've already talked about Director of Academic Services. We're in the final phases of interviewing for the Assistant Director of PPS positions. I just wanted to again reiterate that there had been some discussion about the hiring of a .6 paraprofessional due to the high class sizes of the half-day kindergarten session at the Hood. So I want to let you know that this recommendation was made by Principal Glenn McKay, and we have put this .6 paraprofessional in place. I understand that there was some previous conversation by the school committee regarding class size at the
Right.
Hood last year. And so recognizing that we have high class size, again, a class size of 22 in our half-day at the Hood as compared to 14, 15, or 16 at the other 2 elementary schools, we have put a paraprofessional into that classroom.
And that fits within the existing budget.
It fits within the existing
It does.
budget. I work very closely with Carl Nelson.
Okay. And again, the number of positions this summer is, I mean, we had a lot of big positions that were open, a lot of administrative, but in terms of the teaching staff, this is the smallest number I can
Yeah,
remember
we had
in
that discussion today. It was
a long
encouraging.
time. A long
Yeah,
time.
A long time.
So that's great. Thank you. Next, we have kids and donations. I don't think we have any tonight, do we?
Yes, yes.
We do. What- I am like,
Do you have an agenda?
I thought I read the whole agenda.
Do you have an agenda? Are you trying to memorize it? Because
I do well with the minutes, but everything
just turn
else,
the
I'm.
page.
The Parents Association for the J. Turner Hood Elementary School held an auction on Friday, April 9th.
Oh, great.
And the monies raised at that event were earmarked for the purchase of smart boards. And so the amount of the donation totals $17,254.
That number's correct. That's unbelievable.
That is.
I was
It's
at that, it
unbelievable.
was at that,
That's
it
unbelievable.
was unbelievable.
Wow, that's
It was,
So those smart
Great
boards
night.
are fairly fairly pricey.
Well, it's not just the smart boards, it's the installation, it's the wiring, it's
Oh, right, to the
everything that
network,
goes
yeah.
along with it. So the smart
Where was
boards
that, Mike?
themselves.
Where was it held?
That's great.
It was up at the golf course there.
Really, at the Hilliard?
on North
That is a
Street there at
great,
the,
a great
That's,
donation.
that's fantastic.
So we're asking that you accept the donation?
I would
Okay.
love to move to accept the donation of the 4 smart boards, with gratitude.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Arquette,
It does seem like a lot.
second by Mr. Venezia.
What is
And
it?
again, thank you to the Parents
Yeah, that's-
Association.
that's incredible.
That's a tremendous donation.
Unbelievable. Seems high.
That's really great.
Mm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Now, subcommittee updates. We we reconvened the athletic subcommittee. Had a good meeting. And the major items we discussed, we spent a lot of time discussing the turf field, and it seems like things are going very well there. The scheduling is going very well. Exciting news is that the first night football game will be September 10th, Friday, September 10th versus Ipswich. And
All the home
all
games are gonna
five
be
home
Friday
games, right,
night.
will be Friday night. Come out and see Mr. Venezia on the chains. He does a great job moving those chains up and down the field. We basically used this meeting to discuss the items that we thought would take up much of our time this year. The main item that was brought back was the signs and advertising at the turf field, because we really haven't come to a conclusion on that. We've had a lot of opinions, and I have the action item of contacting Parks and Rec and Hillview, basically just to get a status of where everybody stands right now, and then determining what next steps, if any, there will be, which, as we recommended previously, to move this to the athletic subcommittee to come up with any kinds of policies we might discuss before we come back to the school committee.
And
So
Parks and Recs was unable to have
Right.
a representative at this
Right.
meeting, so we weren't able to.
we really didn't discuss the issue. We just discussed that we want to just find out where everybody stands on it
But
right
they were
now.
aware of the meeting and were invited.
Right,
and
yeah.
That's great.
Rita
So
Mullen was invited to
Okay.
the meeting. She usually attends these meetings. The other issue we discussed, and I'm moving forward on, working with Carl, is, and this ties into the turf field, which again will involve Parks and Rec, and I'm going to be talking to Marty Tilton about putting a fence on the side of the turf field where the school is, one for safety reasons and two for crowd control reasons, because right now people can just come, so if they don't want to pay for a ticket, they can kind of just sneak in and sneak right into the back of the bleachers. There's also a drop-off there, and we're going to have kids practicing there,
Adjacent to the practice field, so.
and there's no fence there.
Okay.
So we talked about seeing, there may have been a price already obtained for what a fence would cost. So I'm going to talk to Marty, see where he is on that fence. Also talk to Parks and Rec, and
He may
then.
not be on the fence, he may take us.
Well, yeah, he might not be on the fence. He might take a side. You're right, Jerry. So see how he feels about the fence, and then we'll either we'll figure out how we can get the fence installed, whether we can split the cost between Parks and Rec and school, and how that might work. But I think for safety reasons, a fence is definitely needed there, and also
Yeah.
for gate reasons. If you're having night football games and night events to attract more attendance, you'd like them to be paying attendees as opposed to, coming in through the back way of the bleachers. So, the other news with the turf field is each of the fall varsity sports will be playing, I believe, 2 night
Yeah.
home games. So field
Field
hockey,
soccer.
and boys and girls soccer will be playing
Right.
2 night home games. The final, we talked about a few other items, but the final one that we had an action item on, which I'm also moving forward on, is putting a set of bleachers at the tennis courts. Cindy Pacino, who I think they're the tennis boosters, who represented them back about a year ago, came in and about 6 months ago actually came in and met with us. Carl has found some bleachers that look like they would make sense for that. Looks like the money from the boosters would cover almost all of what the bleachers cost. So, and they wouldn't require, it's a small enough set of bleachers where it wouldn't require building inspector and all that approval. Well, building inspector approval,
Yes.
but they're handicap accessible, so they wouldn't require any special accommodations for that. They wouldn't require us to put in a brand new pad or anything to set the bleachers on. So, those are the three action items we have on it.
And the bleach is nothing elaborate. I think they only
Right.
sit 40 people.
40 people, something like
And
that.
it was brought to us on several occasions by the boosters for the tennis team, so they're paying for it, and it seems to be a reasonable
Right.
request.
Right. And we discussed a lot of other issues in general with the athletic director, and he did let us know that programs continue to grow, and he may be coming before us to officially request more assistant coaches for some of the sports because of the numbers of kids. I think lacrosse, boys lacrosse was one he mentioned, boys and girls soccer,
Softball.
and softball. So he may be before us. He didn't make an official request at this time. And so those are the general discussions from athletic subcommittee. SSBC, Jerry?
I'm going to actually ask the superintendent to comment on this, because she's been doing all of the dealings, and she's actually been doing quite a bit.
Okay. Kathy?
Sure. I have been in contact with our field coordinator. Her name is Kathleen Timmons, and she gave us some information regarding some next steps. She faxed to us the feasibility study agreement, also known as an FSA. We're going to drown in acronyms by the end of this
Yeah.
project, but we have an FSA that has to be completed with 3 exhibits that Jerry has taken a look at, I have taken a look at, and we're going to take to the committee. At the same time, I asked if we could continue to work on the RFS, request for services for the OPM, the owner's project manager. So, she said that we could use the template that was posted on the website. Carl has been working diligently to fill that out as best as he can with the information that we have, because some of the information that he needs is also part of the exhibits attached to the feasibility study agreement. So really, when you take a look at a chronology, the feasibility study agreement does need to precede the RFS, but we're trying to do them both at the same time. In the meantime, I have emailed her. Carl forwarded an old email to me that indicated that a meeting would be in order. I have requested that I attend a meeting at the MSBA to be brought up to speed on this project. I haven't heard back yet, but Jerry, I'll let you know when I do.
Oh, that's great.
Because I think that I would like to sit down with our field coordinator and just hear about the history, hear about the chronology. I've downloaded many documents from the internet around feasibility studies and what needs to happen, but I really want to have a face-to-face. Plus, I want to see who I'm talking with, and I want them to see me.
Right.
So I think it's very important to have this meeting take place, so we have that on tap. We also have, I forgot to put this on my administrative report, I apologize, we do have another meeting scheduled. It was alluded to this evening. It's going to be for August 10th. The SSBC will be meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in the middle school. The one, the meeting that was scheduled for July 27th was canceled because we did not have this information
Right.
prior to that meeting taking place. So that's where we're at this point in time, and Jerry came in today to meet with me about another issue, and then Jerry and Carl and I sat down to review where we're at and where we'll move
It
forward.
was actually good to see that there's a feasibility study agreement that obviously needs to be signed, approved by MSBA before we go forward on the request for the
OPM and-
project manager, the OPM.
Does a feasibility study tell us what we have to do, or is it just an agreement that we will participate in?
It's an agreement that requires a significant amount of information, and then even the request for the services for the OPM, tremendous amount of information. Kyle's been working on it and basically trying to get it ready so that once we get the feasibility study agreement approved, that'll be ready to go.
Okay.
And, there's a timeline, but I think we have some flexibility on it because we're gonna be working so closely with the MSBA that we're kind of on their timeline, to be honest with you, so.
I do have one question on the next steps. There's a talk about a phone call to discuss the methodology used to arrive at enrollment figures for the project. Is there an issue there,
Thank you.
or?
No, this is part of this whole process. They have an enrollment specialist at the MSBA. And what happens now that all of those reports that were requested previously that Keith and Carl submitted to the department have been reviewed, what happens next is the enrollment specialist takes a look at that information and applies their own methodology to come up with what they perceive to be the enrollment requirements for the project as proposed. So we're we have scheduled that meeting. It will take place, I believe, on August 9th. John Bernard and I will be part of that conference call with the enrollment specialist. And I've been told that sometimes it's a back and forth where something will be proposed, then it needs to be reviewed by the local